It's made us faster, more efficient. And if we aren't giving it the classic human once over, then that's on us. I mean, we're taking 9,000 word podcast transcripts and weaving them into some takeaways. And
Yeah.
then you're not reading those takeaways before you put them out there and saying, did the LLM capture what me and this other dude talked about? Then that's on you.
Welcome to Deep Learning with PolyAI. We're here to help CX leaders get a window into the latest and greatest in AI. If you enjoy this type of content, if you enjoy us, please give us a like on YouTube, leave a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast app, and please subscribe. All right, and with that, I would love to introduce our guest today, who is Dom Nicastro, editor-in-chief of Simpler Media Group, which so many of our listeners will recognize as the publisher of CMS Wire. Dom's been with Simpler Media for 12 years, and he's been a journalist for over 4 decades. It sounds like starting back in 5th grade. I cannot wait to hear a little bit more about that. I'm super excited to have you on our show to talk about CX, AI, making connections, which has always been at the heart of your work. So, welcome to the show, Dom.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm glad you brought up the long, distinguished career in journalism. Unfortunately, I was paid more at the Fuller Elementary School in Gloucester, Mass. In the mid 80s. I was paid a lot more than I am now. So, but I do it for the love of the game, Michelle, you know?
As do we all. I love it. So, tradition has it that we typically share a news story, and then we will, or opinion article, and we'll get your opinion, get your thoughts on it, and I'll ask you a few questions about it. And there have been some big news in the AI and journalism world this week. The News Guild just started a campaign called News, Not Slop. And it's meant to call attention to keeping the human element in news publications to protect not just jobs, but the quality of journalism. So I would love to, but before I ask you some questions about it, did you have a look and what do you think about it?
I did. Why are journalists always so upset? You know, like,
You tell us. I
you
mean,
know,
maybe it's
PR
okay.
people. I hate the PR people. I hate my editor. I hate everybody. Cranky bunch, cranky bunch. But the initiative is really good. Excuse me, it is. It is. We. I mean, I think it's up to every single news organization to make sure the slop doesn't enter, the AI slop doesn't, lessen the quality of what you're putting out. I mean, if you're trying to make, as a journalist, you're just trying to make sense of the noise, and cut through it. People are telling you things all day in your inbox, wherever, social, and they're trying to get your attention, and you're just trying to sort out what's real, what's really having an impact. And yes, if we need this concerted effort, lawsuits and all that to help move towards a more genuine I mean, I don't even think AI is the biggest problem that journalism faced. It's bias,
Mhm.
and AI had nothing to do with that.
That's
It's the advent of the internet and social media, and who's out there. There's people out there saying a lot of things before AI, right? Um,
100%.
and what's genuine, what's not, and that's our job as journalists to take what's been said and filter and make sense of it to the end user, the consumer. That's it. So
Totally.
it's a fine effort, that News Guild effort.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
love how you said, that the job of the journalist is like filtering through noise, in service of the reader, in service of the person who's consuming it. And it's AI definitely feels like it's been adding to that noise. And a lot of it is slop. And so, yeah, I agree with you on the initiative. Speaking of, we started this by you saying like it's a cranky bunch. I'm curious about the bunch that you work with. Are they using AI? How cranky are they about using
Are
AI?
they cranky? Yeah, yeah. Oh, they're all curmudgeons. They're horrible. No, of course, absolutely. I 100% support use of AI into our journalism circles. Now, I think with the new that issue and the lawsuit you brought up, and that effort is more about, AI slop, meaning um, content that's just generated from AI, 100% only, and pushed out into the world. That to me is slop. Um,
Yeah.
as a journalist, how can I do that and tell my readers if they actually had a question on it? Like, like I don't know about this customer journey mapping tool that you ran. And what's Dom Nicastro going to say? Like, I don't know. Ask the LLM. I got it. That made it for me, right? So I support the weaving, the integration of AI into journalism 100%. Um, it, and right now, it's a matter of making us faster.
Yeah.
I won't say it's making our content better. You know what I
Yep.
mean? That's up to us.
Yes.
It's made us faster, more efficient. And if we aren't giving it the classic human once over, then that's on us if we're going to roll something out. Um, and not do that human in the loop check, because I mean, we're taking 9,000 word podcast transcripts and weaving them into some takeaways. And
Yeah.
then you're not reading those takeaways before you put them out there and saying, did the LLM capture what me and this other dude talked about? Then that's on you. So
Yeah. I
so I'm
love that.
100% behind it. I am not like, I mean, I think some journalists in the beginning were like, no, 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 I don't need that. I'm going to interview the person and run it. And hey, if you want to edit a 9,000 word transcript, go ahead. But I'm using an LLM 100% of the time on those.
Totally. Yeah, it sounds like you've found a way to integrate it well, where its job is to support speed and support the great sort of things that are already happening with your team. But
Yes.
that that their job is still primarily around quality. And I'm curious if you think any of those lessons that you've learned map onto how CX leaders might be thinking about where AI is going to add the most value.
I think so. I think so because they're also trying to communicate with people, right? With customers. So what is I mean, if a company hires or implements a chatbot, right?
Yep.
That is a 24-hour representative of your brand.
Hmm.
If you were to hire a human being that was like a 24-hour representative of your brand that answered every question that every customer ever asked, would you just like kind of roll out that person and be like, all right, cool, you don't have to sleep or anything. That's all, you're good. So, the vetting, the governance, and I have so many lessons I've learned from practitioners in the CX world, from conferences I've been to, and I'm like a vessel of what they say. This Dom Nicastro isn't the expert of how to weave CX and AI.
Yeah.
Dom Nicastro gets experts to tell him how to do it,
Totally.
and then he writes to other folks trying to do it. So, I'm filtering what they're saying, but the things I'm hearing from them, about CX and AI and what are the challenges. A lot of the people I talk to are getting more internal AI wins much faster than customer facing ones. This is like a small sample because we have survey data that says different things, but my one-on-one outside the keynote in the hallways of these conferences, this is the things, that they're telling me. They want um, th- it's much easier to deploy AI where governance risks are low. That's what a huge concern is. So if
Totally.
they have that governance locked down, they're on board for coaching, QA, hiring, agent assistance, workforce management, analytics. Um, but because the customer facing AI really requires like a heavier compliance, security, legal review. So those are kind of some of the things that might hold them back from rollouts. Um, so it's in our surveys that we're sending out, we're seeing much more confidence in AI and CX, much more
Yeah.
than say last year even.
Absolutely.
Um,
We're seeing the same. We're definitely
Yeah.
seeing the same. But going back to what you said about, journalism and AI not being the problem, but you have this underlying bias issue. I think the same applies for like enterprises thinking about how to incorporate CX and AI and CX, which is that if you have a great theory of your relationship, you have a good underlying foundation for who you want to be at scale, what you want that 24-hour person to say and sound like, you know, AI just allows you to get to that quality faster. It allows you to get to that relationship building faster. But we're definitely seeing a trend where the fear's kind of going down about a lot of those things because a lot of these compliance and governance things, those kinks are being ironed out and have been ironed out over the past few years. And I guess to that point, part of it was with the advent and introduction of ChatGPT, 3 years ago, and just like them kind of helping to open the floodgates and get consumers comfortable with interfacing with AI and getting enterprises to say, okay, it's time, like almost like the tail has wagged the dog in that sense. But
Yeah.
do you still see CX leaders in an experimental phase, with things like ChatGPT and AI? And what do you feel like is holding them back? If compliance and governance are starting to be like fall by the wayside, what do you think is still holding them back?
Well, let me just tout one of our reports, shall I? And what they told us.
Mhm.
The digital customer experience report. And I actually, you can, Michelle, you're free to roll your eyes too, because when I am interviewing someone and they start bringing in their stuff, I'm like,
No,
all
I
right,
respect it. I will always respect the hustle, always.
no, I did because I think it's important because it's actually data that, a lot of digital customer experience leaders have told us. So this is kind of like speaking for the masses. Here we go. So number one concern in the last year's report, not the current one, was the same: data
Mhm.
privacy.
Mhm.
So 58% in 2023. It went down a little, so the concern is getting less, but it's still up. It's still number one, 49% now. So data privacy, number one concern, back to back years. And this is post
Yeah.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Number two, same deal, going less and less, but still number two, cybersecurity problems.
Sure.
49% in 2023, 42% in 2024. And then I'll just kind of go down the list: protecting intellectual property, losing authenticity in content,
Yes.
copyright issues, like plagiarism. I know there's lawsuits there, like New York Times and stuff. Adhering to brand standards.
Yep.
That's another issue with our audience and our CX leaders. Job loss, displacement due to automation. So there's some fears there. Lack of transparency, deep fakes, bias due to data bias and underlying models, losing employee trust in loyalty. And 3% have no issues, no concerns whatsoever. I'd like to meet that person who
Yeah,
just
I think me too.
doesn't care, throw it out. So maybe they're having huge wins. I'm not sure.
It's super interesting. Like when we actually go through sales processes with companies that are on their way to embracing AI for automation, AI for automating customer experience,
Yeah.
we see a lot of that data privacy and compliance and governance things as proxies. When we actually get down to it and we ask more second order questions and like really what's going on, what's the fear behind the fear, a lot of it is about one thing that came up lower in your list, which was about adhering to brand standards. It's just like, is my job going to be protected when something goes wrong and that gets broadcasted? Am I going to be okay? Are you going to be able to do this while still protecting my relationship with the customer? And that has been fairly universal. It's like easy to kind of put it behind the compliance, front and like the cybersecurity front, but we haven't heard a whole lot about AI hacks. We have absolutely heard a lot about AI fails, where it's just like the bot does not do what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
yeah,
think
do
that's on,
you
I think
agree?
that's on the human behind it, though. I think. I mean, if
Mhm.
you're rolling it out and expecting it to just answer everything in the world for your customers, without any guardrails, without any due diligence behind that system, and putting smart engineers behind it
Yeah,
to make sure it doesn't do that. And I know it's not 100% controllable. I think that's on the people,
yeah,
behind. I mean, and you're not going to be able to blame. What was it? The famous one, Air Canada, I think
yes,
was.
Yep.
it was their kid. They tried to present that in court like it was the bot's fault or something like that. No, no, it
Yeah.
was, you're speaking for the brand. I don't care where it was, who it was, how it was. It's the brand is on the hook.
I don't disagree. It's the same thing about management. It's like you complain about somebody on the team, like the manager takes the fall.
Yeah.
Um,
I've said
so
it's on me a lot of times this year, Michelle. That's on me. That's on
so
me.
have I. We share that. We share that. So you guys must spend a ton of time like going through vendor pitches and claims and just like information, like a mass amount of noise from this space. Like, how do you parse through what's actually meaningful, what's actually worthwhile, what's worth following up on?
Yeah, you get out there and you talk to people. These conferences, if are so enjoyable to anyone who does a customer conference, and you guys must do one. Does PolyAI get out there? Yeah,
You. We do. Yeah, we got
it's
to invite you to the next one. That was our bad.
yeah, no, it's all good. We actually had conferences, and as much as we think that they're coming to go to our keynotes, they're coming to go to this session, that session, and they're all important and they're all valuable. They're coming there to talk to each other,
Yeah.
customers to customer. And that's where I get all the magic. So when I hear claims from vendors and 85% of such and such is, I'll try to, if I can't really corroborate it, I'll leave it out, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if I have corroborated it by talking to a lot of folks and getting a consensus that it makes sense, yeah, I'll run with it.
Love it.
Um, you know, um, and the one thing I am really skeptical of is a company that's a private company that's talking about financials. I'm like, no,
Mhm.
it's got to be
Mhm.
public. I will never print like a company's unless they talk about it openly with me and stuff. But so yeah, it the vendor claims. I think an audience that you're trying to attract, the CX leader, when they're getting messages from a company like yours, I think they're doing the same thing. I think they're corroborating claims with other customers. You
That's what I was
know,
gonna ask. How are they getting their information that
yeah.
they can see on a stage? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I think those lunches at conferences are so important. They're just talking, letting it loose. Their boss isn't with them. They can say whatever they want. They're free, and I think the more that vendors like you, the more anybody trying to push some kind of agenda can put more customers in front of folks that are actually using the tool, doing the work. I think that filters out a lot of the nonsense. You
yeah,
know, when I get a pitch from a vendor and it's just something that's a product, that's fine. That has value and it's a nice product update. We'll cover it. Um, but even better, if there's a customer in there, I always say, can we pull out that customer and talk about high level CX contact center trends?
yeah.
Because that's where the real awesome, like fun, genuine conversations are happening. So that's my little advice to you. Get the customers out there, front and center. And that's not easy. That's not easy. Um, if the vendor of the CMS that I use said, Dom, can you do a huge case study with us? I'm like, I don't have time. But it's hard. It's hard to get those customers in front of your audience, but definitely smart.
No doubt. That said, a couple months ago, we had our customer advisory board in person in San Diego, and I was sitting next to somebody who said, "Hey, this person from X company reached out. Should I take the call?" And I was like, "X company? We're trying to sell to them right now. They're calling you for a reference. Yes, you should take that call." And it happens all the time. So to your point, the best way to parse through the sea of noise that is AI for CX is to talk to actual people who've deployed it
Yeah,
before and can give
yeah,
you an honest, take on what it was like, what it really felt like to deploy, not the marketing language, not the messaging that my team's writing, but like what
I
is
mean, heck,
actually happening.
yeah. There's value for that, and it needs to be out there. It needs to be a story. It needs to be told. You don't always have to have a customer in there. Um, but man, it's really good when you can do that. And um, hearing from the folks, and then even journalists get even skeptical on that sometimes too. Like, oh,
Yeah,
they're only putting their top three out there. I want to talk to the ones who had trouble.
true.
um,
Yeah.
and you do, and I think vendor pitches, the more you can listen and not tout your services, and like, what can we do for you? Like,
Mhm.
how is your unique case? How can we support your unique case? And one of the most honest things is like, you know what, we might not be the best fit. You're not going to bring that back to like a board meeting and say, we're not the best fit for anybody. But it's sometimes a good way to be honest and maybe open up a door later.
Absolutely. Or get better if it's something that you do want to handle in
Yeah,
the future. But getting that honest feedback, shapes a business, shapes a brand. We say the same thing about our advisory board. It's kind of like how we opened up the conversation, which is like we're not here to make a commercial. And we're here to make a roadmap look better. We're here to like make a great experience for you and for your customers. So
yeah,
going back to your experience, you've probably been to more CX events than anybody on the planet.
yeah.
What are the things that you do here as people are walking off the stage? I'm like, what are they saying to you?
A lot of stuff. You know, I'll give you one example. There was a healthcare industry leader, like an engineer, software developer type, basically like a marketing technologist. You know, someone who sits in between like the CX front facing folks and the back end team. Um, and one of the things, there was a demo and a keynote from a provider with AI in implementations into the digital customer experience stack. And it looked impressive. There's 200 agents, which by the way, I want to know, and I might come after you guys. Like
Please.
I want to know the adoption that's happening with
Yeah.
AI tools. I want to know as a journalist for CMSY, I want to know where your customers are using the tools the most.
Mhm.
You know, vendors are throwing out a lot of things like agents, 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 and there's an agent for this, there's an agent for that. Okay, what's the number one use case for the agent? How many customers have adopted? Is it like 80%? Is it 8%? Is it zero? Um, I would love to do that sort of investigative like report and get that out there. 'Cause I think we need to know where customer experience leaders are mostly using, and I can give you some stats that we have, but I want to know what's happening at like 10 vendors,
Totally.
um, stay tuned. Be ready to be transparent,
We're ready.
Michelle, with
We're
all the
definitely
AI.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you a couple things right off the bat, but just like,
Okay,
table
please.
stakes for most of our customers are automating the low level, low lying things that their reps don't want to do, like their agents don't want to do. Like a lot of them do want to actually handle the hyper complex, I made this order, I sent it to the wrong address, and yeah, actually it's a gift, so I need it to do this and possibly be sent over there, and there might
Yeah,
be customs, those types of calls where you really need to get a person on the phone and solve them. Though we do solve those too, but everybody starts, like everybody wants to kind of handle those low level kind of FAQ calls, just like, hey, can I bring my service dog to this hotel or to this restaurant?
yeah,
Can you make a note on my reservation that just puts a little bowl of water on the ground for them, or something like that. And I'm always saying to the team, where things get really interesting for us is when you do that low lying kind of use case really, really well, and you start to get to do even more interesting things, and you start to be able to handle like not just your run of the mill, um, like booking a hotel conversation, or it's checking your insurance conversation, but I have this specific problem and I'm not exactly sure what to do with it or who to go about it or what even kind of specialist I should be talking to in your hospital practice. Can you help me? When we start to be able to move from those sort of low lying, literally 100% of our customers do FAQ calls,
mhm,
100%. Um, that's when you start to earn the trust and earn the right to do the more interesting things, where sometimes you have the more interesting conversations and you get back the more interesting data. about what your customer wants from you and like what they're really worried about and all that stuff. And I'm sure if you talk to 10 other kind of conversational AI vendors, they'd all say, yeah, we do
Yeah.
FAQs, booking, and appointment cancellations and changes, and where's my order. Like everybody's got the same sort of baseline kind of use cases that they do, and the journey where they start and where they end. But where things get really interesting, where we can make some interesting recommendations, are on those fringes. But yeah, that's just like we definitely should do a part two, and get through some of those stats, because there's a lot of interesting things on those
Yeah,
fringes.
I would love, as a consumer, as someone on the other side, looking at the technology from behind the scenes, as a journalist in the space, I would love to see companies move to a place where you have a chatbot, and the first question is, do you want to deal with a human or an AI
Yeah,
assistant person? That's it.
yeah,
Just right off the
100%.
bat, and I'll be
You know,
like, boop, human.
yeah,
Um,
you talk about overcoming trust. The consumer has a preference too. And like you take away their agency entirely and just push them towards something. The idea is that we eventually build a preference for the automated version, like the agent, because it's going to have way more data, way more speed, way more access, to the things that you need to get what you want. But
yeah,
that might be a gradual process and easing people in. I think about that kind of thing too. And some of our customers allow that. I'm thinking about the same person I sat next to at the customer advisory board brought up that point, and has a deployment that does open up in that way. So
yeah.
very, very cool point.
That's how I start a conversation. I'm like, human, human. um,
Operator. Yeah,
that's it. That's how I start because I know it's just not going to work. But maybe I'm too skeptical there, and maybe it will work. Maybe I should try. But um, just
unfortunately, we
just
didn't
to
have to start this conversation in that way, which
yeah,
is
yeah,
good.
yeah, and just to give you the illustration of that one practitioner that I think spoke for a lot of CX leaders. So he got the demo was done and it looked great and everything. Agents, agentic AI, marketing, CX. It's going to integrate right into your tools. There was one word that turned him off, and it was free. So they didn't have to. The vendor was just rolling it out seamlessly without any additional licensing or anything like that, and that concerned him because he told me if the model is unlimited and free, where's the downgrade happening? Like, how is this going to be in terms of quality?
Yeah,
Um, so I think folks like him are asking these really hard questions to vendors these days. You could probably tell me more about like token limits, model quality, data retention, even like vendor financial sustainability with AI. Like how is the vendor doing with its own spending?
totally.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Like low cost AI often means low quality reasoning. You know,
100%.
um,
Or
so
load. Yeah,
they don't
yeah,
use
yeah.
it. He's not. They don't use it yet. So there's a lot of like splash on the stage, and then you get on the ground floor, and you're like, it looks okay, but we just need the blocking and tackling from our tool right now. We don't need this polish and fancy stuff at the moment. And I'm not
Yeah.
speaking for everybody, because you do see great use cases with CX and AI on stage, and you hear about it, and we have a whole TV series where folks are talking about it. So um, it's there, and we're so early. It feels like if you'd asked me what has a bigger impact on journalism so far, the internet or AI, it is 1,000,000% the internet.
Sure.
AI hasn't changed the journalism game. The internet did.
That's
That
absolutely
was true change, and I lived it. We were excited, Michelle, when we could post a PDF onto our website. Like, wow, you know? And we put these horrifically long, ugly URLs in the print edition of the newspaper that told folks to go. If you want to read all the city council minute meetings, go to www, and it was just insane. Great
well,
customer
speaking, I guess,
experience.
of like of like pulling out things from archives, you guys built a RAG system, right? Called
Yeah,
Roberta. Why'd you build it, and how do you
yeah.
use it?
This is my favorite part of the AI integration into journalism to date. It's not ChatGPT helping you with headlines. It's not condensing podcasts, transcripts, but This RAG system that smarter people than me, more technical people than me in the company built for the editorial teams is brilliant because I think this is where AI meets journalism. It's the best use case of where AI meets journalism. And I say that because this system scans, combs, learns all of CMS Wire's historical content. And it has it, it's learned it, it's there. What journalists do often is they take a moment in time that's happening that day, that week, and they want to give it context and perspective. Like, how long has this been happening? What's happened last year in this area? What's happened 5 years ago in this area? The past is all journalists are obsessed with the past. This wasn't always the case. That's we always say that, it's changed. We always want to bring people into like the current day by informing them about what's happened leading up to that. That's
Yeah.
journalism. So with this rack system, it can scan all of our historical content. And if I need something on CX and AI, just a really broad topic,
Hmm.
it will give me everything we've written about it and put it into this nice summary with hyperlinks to the actual article. I can set date parameters. I want to know everything that's happened from last year at this date to now. And why is that the best thing for AI in journalism? Is because it's our own content. It's not scanning the internet for
Yeah.
context. It is
Yep.
taking our brand. We're staying that concern I mentioned earlier about being off brand. That's
Yeah.
on brand, 100%. Um, and we can do. I would hate to just go cmswire.com and start searching our archives myself. Is this article helpful to this story? No. Is this article helpful? No. The Roberta, who we call her, the rack system, does it for us. And it's it's made like even like a vendor. Like I'll give you an example of a vendor story. Like if we have a vendor press release that we feel is interesting to our readers, we'll cover it. And if we don't, we're not blessed with the most amazing deep staff resources, so we might just kind of write off the press release and not do a
Mhm.
demo and an interview. So we'll write off the release, but we'll feed what's going on to Roberta and say, give us some context about what this vendor is saying, what they're doing. Is this normal? Is it not normal? Is it new? Is it innovative? So all the questions that journalists always ask, I can ask those now with the help of my lovely Roberta.
Yeah.
And amazing, right? And
Yeah. You can-
as an editor, I can use it too. If I feel like a piece of content is thin, instead of
Mhm.
going back to the journalist, like, hey, go find. We're pressed for time. I want to get it out the door. Roberta.
I
Um,
love-
it's been we're always tweaking it, iterating on it. Roberta kind of said something weird. Can we fix that? And we'll feed it to the developers and
Has
you
she
know
ever won Employee of the Year?
Yeah, she's get. I mean, for someone who doesn't complain, does everything in 2 seconds. Like,
I
I
love
mean,
it.
come on.
I mean, the
She's
nice thing about it too is it's not contributing to the noise like that we were talking about in the slop that we were talking about.
yeah,
It's AI that's actually practical and built off of stuff that's already been vetted by journalists that have been thinking about the quality piece. I love that.
yeah. It's
Um,
us. It's us. It's not slop upon slop upon slop. Yep.
Exactly. I have one. I'm going to leave us with one dumb
Yeah.
question I'm really curious about, and this is going back to fifth grade for you. Um, so you wrote about the high school football team in fifth grade. Did you know about football? Were you passionate about football, or did you have to learn about it to write about it? How did this happen? How did you get that gig? Fifth
Well,
grade too. I mean, that's
yeah.
impressive.
The 1987 Gloucester High School football team. So Gloucester is in Massachusetts. It's the setting for the Perfect Storm movie. George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg. Ever seen that one?
Of course.
Or heard of it at least. It's about fishermen lost at sea. Very very tragic. Gloucester is very blessed to have the fishing community and the access to the water, but also cursed in a bit because we lose fishermen, out at sea. And it's beautiful memorial to them at City Hall. There's a fisherman at the wheel statue right off the coast in the harbor. But that newsletter. I was just in love with that football team. I thought they were professionals, and they were kids, 16-year-old kids. They came into the school. I remember all this. They came into the school, had a pep rally for us because they were going to the Super Bowl, and that was a big deal in Gloucester. It hadn't been done in a long decades. And I just wrote about the team. Somehow I just had an itch to write. And that team, by the way, went to the Super Bowl and broke my little fifth grade heart because they lost.
Oh,
Really, 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 really bad call. Not that I'm bitter about it still, you know, 40 years later. Um,
I
it was a
I
big
guess
deal.
better.
It was at like the Patriots Stadium, like Sullivan Stadium, I think it was called back then in Foxborough, Mass.
Wow.
My parents got a hotel the night before. The opposing team was in the hotel. It was weird, right? It was just fun. So that's where journalism began for Dom Nicastro, right at the hands of that Gloucester High School football team.
Well, that's how it sounds like you got bit by the bug, and hopefully there are more wins to come. It's been great having you on. You have a front row seat to how organizations are thinking about AI, how they're adopting it, and hearing how you navigate that as a journalist and bring AI into your like workflow was really, really interesting and really, really refreshing. So appreciate it. Appreciate the time, Dom. Hopefully we get to do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, thanks so much.